Did you all hear the word? Yes. Everybody heard it? So I don't need to summarize the song. So I don't know about you, but 2026 has been a long year. Yes, it's the 8th of March, and I'm just like, I am ready for a holiday. Where is the holiday, right? It's like we ended 2025, and there was no reset, start over, let's refresh. It was just straight into it. We're in gear 5. We didn't even change down to 1. It was just continued, and very exhausted. And Adelaide messaged me on iRay and says, oh, by going and said, oh, preaching on Sunday. I was like, what? So what do you mean? It's like, you're on the timetable, Nanzi. And I was like, I beg you, remember to see that timetable. But okay, what am I preaching on? It's the Ephesians series, Nanzi. It's there on the timetable. Okay. So I was like, don't worry. And she sends me, send your saying by what? Friday, 5 p.m. so that immediately can upload it. Yeah. Don't worry, I'll practice about this. Adelaide messages me. I did it 9 o'clock on Friday night. Hi, Nanzi, just check me. I'm preaching on Sunday. Sorry, Adelaide, there's no sermon, there's no slides. You'll see me on Sunday. That was my message to her. I'm sure Adelaide was thinking. Then school messages me. And she's like, hi, Nanzi, I see you're preaching on Sunday. I just want to check. Got an email said that, but I'm thinking, she sounded that, but the headset talking mine. I'm sick. I don't mean at school. But that's where some of us are. Everything feels, I was going to use the example of a ball of water. That might not relate for guys in the room, but you might have a box of charging cables or just the cables lying around, and you're trying to get that one cable. Ladies, I think there's more relatable to say, because she actually walks around and buy a wool, but you're trying to pull out that one ball of wool. You can't see where the start is from the end. You start trying to untangle it, and what usually happens is that ball gets even tighter. That charger cable gets lost in the mess. You're like almost there, and all of a sudden it's like you've done nothing. And sometimes that's what it feels like. And, in life, that's what it sometimes feels like. We're juggling work responsibilities, you're juggling your family, you're juggling financial pressure, health concerns, expectations from others, and it gets a lot. And before long, you are that guy in the corner over there, or that lady over there, and just looks like a cloud of something over you. Right? Anybody there? Anybody feel like that? So the last 2 weeks have been a lot of pressure to me. And that's something like that. What you shop at tea. There have been a lot of pressure at work. And then I get this phone call. I'm in a meeting, and I get this phone call, and I see the number. And there's some of those phone calls where you can't ignore. And if you do ignore, you need to make sure you call back within the next minute, because it may not be so good for you. So I excuse myself from the meeting, and I ask, can I take the call? And they're like, yeah, sure, take the call. So I take the call, and there's a lady on the back, on the other end, and she's saying, hey, we need this. We sent us this, or you didn't give us this. What is this? And I'm in a meeting right now. Okay, fine, but I need this. And, she's going on about what she needs, and she needs now. And now I am like, because I also don't want to be rude, because there was any backlash and I'm rude, but my mind, I'm just like, and then I go back into the meeting, and then I say, okay. And it's just been a week. That's what I said to the lady. And she's there. So there's 2 of us. I'm meeting this lady, and then the other lady, she's like in the meeting, but not in the meeting. So she goes inside on the laptop, and she says, have you found Jesus? And she says, breathe and find Jesus. So I'm like, okay, thank you. And then we continued our meeting, and I walk out, and I get into the car. Breathe and find Jesus. Breathe and find Jesus. And that changed my whole day. Because after that, I intentionally decided I'm going to breathe and find Jesus. And then this brings us to what we're preaching on today, Ephesians 5, chapter 5. Next slide, please. Paul is speaking to believers about living in a complicated world. So Ephesians 1-4, he's basically saying Christ has come down, he's our savior, he died on the cross to save our lives. I'm sure if you've been in church the last couple of weeks, you said, I want to refresh. But, he's now telling us how to live and what not to do. I think the last chapter in Ephesians 4 is basically about how we breathe the Holy Spirit. Then we come to Ephesians 5, and it says, therefore, so after all of this that he's told us, therefore, be imitators of God as dear children and walk in love as Christ also has loved us and given himself for us, an offering and a sacrifice to God for a sweet smelling aroma. So I'm having a difficult day, and lady with that phone number calls me, and I'm supposed to do what? The previous that things. I'm supposed to walk in love as Christ also loved us. Can you do that? When we're following Christ, how we treat people is meant to automatically change. The things I used to do before has to stop. But the truth is, when life becomes stressful and I'm carrying that ball of wool or cloud of wool above my head, how do we usually respond? This is the point of time when you now raise your hands and interact with me, so that's just not me talking. How do we respond in those moments? Though you're smiling, how do you respond in those moments? Okay, we don't need that answer. That sounds too good. How you kill somebody, right? We react out of frustration, out of fear, out of exhaustion. Some of you, the moms in here, your kid comes and asks you a dumb question in the evening. Man, it's not a dumb question, but in that moment, it's a very dumb question. And you leash out the whole day on that child, and they left thinking, never mind, Mommy. Okay, set it back right now. But this is how we tend to react. But when we pause, so this is now when we're always having these concepts. So yeah. When we pause and find Jesus, something changes. We begin to see people through Christ's eyes. So this lady called me on Friday. She called me on Friday, and most of you know I'm a news anchor, so I was about to go on to set. And she calls and she's asking for the thing. I've gone and looked for the thing that she wanted, and I actually don't have it. So I'm giving her the response, I don't have this in Eliana. And she says, okay, fine, but I need this. I'm like, okay, fine, but in terms of protocol, I'm not allowed to send it to you. And you know this. Whoa. The beauty is like Jesus. She went on and on and on. And I'm just standing there, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I don't have the time. It's time for me to change because I'm not dressed appropriately to go on set. And she goes, oh, and mom. And I'm like, we're finding Jesus. Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much for your call, but next week I'm not office. I'll ask one of my team members to send it to you. Thank you. And she's still going on as I ended the call. And she's going on, and she's going on. And I sat back and I realized, a lot of us are carrying clouds. But because we are not in that moment trying to find Jesus, we unleash our clouds on everyone else in front of us. But if you then take that moment to just realize or look at someone the way Jesus would, you would realize that this is a cloud and this is not a personal attack on me. And your response automatically changes. So yeah, sometimes the right response begins with 3 simple words. Breathe. Find Jesus. Next slide, please. So, oh yes, I've still more of this. Next slide. Yeah. So now the next section goes on about walking in the light. You know, I was listening to some guy talking about the Bruce prayer this morning, and then some guy goes and talks, and then the kids come. I'm like, my sermon has been preached. Thank you. So I'm just going to give you guys a summary of what I was going to bring today. But Ephesians 5:8-10. For you were once darkness, but now you are in the light. You are lights in the Lord. Walk as children of light. For the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness, righteousness, and truth, finding out what is acceptable to the Lord. So it then goes and tells us in the chapter what's not acceptable and how we shouldn't be living and so forth. But I just want to repeat that. For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Walk as children of light. A lot of us, or a lot of people rather, think that once we become Christians, we get in that moment of salvation, it's all done. But that's not it. It's actually, next slide, it's actually a daily walk. Every single day, you have to walk in that light. Because if you're not walking in the light, where are you? In the darkness. Praying, reading the word, be filled with the Spirit. John 8:12 says, I am the light of the Lord. Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness. So if you're not following Christ, where are you? In darkness. And what happens in darkness? Everything we're not supposed to be doing. So light isn't something that we're supposed to visit occasionally. Ooh, today I need some light. Ooh, fresh light. And then, the next couple of days you're in darkness. It's something that I wanted to put a journal of the cigarette. That would be appropriate. So just imagine yourself just daily. It's not even it's not a marathon. It's not a race. You're just walking one step at a time. So that song that we played, it says, why are you stressing? Faith, God never said it was going to be easy, but it's about having faith and trusting in God and just continually staying in the word. No matter how difficult it is, there's a line at the end of that song which she says, she's fainted by waves day, but she's not sinking. And it's because she's walking in the light. So reading your word, spending time in prayer, seeking God's guidance in life daily, even in the ordinary places, working meetings, and difficult conversations, you're seeking God's guidance daily. Sometimes we wonder why we feel lost and overlooked. But I think the honest reason is that we've forgotten that we're supposed to be walking with Christ. And Christ is in fact, he's actually there. He just chose to say, I'm doing this on my own. I've got this. Watch this face, just watch this face. I got this, Lord. But you actually don't. And I want to show us why or what that looks like. Next slide. So there's so much recall in the kids will say, my lighthouse, shining in the darkness, I will follow you. Oh, yeah. But the lighthouse is over there. And in the storm, this is what we look like. We follow God's light. Jesus is the light that guides us through the storm. And I want us to remember that the next time you're battling a storm, are you walking through that storm with God? And sometimes the funny thing is, we go through these storms, and Christ doesn't always remove the storm immediately. But guess what? We come out of it. When we find him, he becomes the light that guides us through that storm. So I think you mentioned it some time back, that we went through a storm, several storms, but we went through for like years. And then we're like, but when you look back, you're like, hammer. In spite of needing that storm, school fees were paid, the kids were clothed, we ate, we drove to work, we came home. In fact, we bought new clothes, we went to a toilet, we. But at the time, we're like, oh, what was financial storm? Oh, what time? But look, here we stand today, and we are still okay. One, because we were walking through that storm with God. We never let go. I think had we let go, it would have been a different picture. But we never let go. Then there's a video I'd like us to watch now. Next slide. Yes, negative insert video now. Oh, sorry. But we're all able to keep on. He says you got to watch all that. I say happy. Where is that? How many of me here today? I haven't. Where you at? With your full ableness. He's found peace. He's found purpose. He's found joy in Christ. He realized that healing in the heart is far more important than that physical healing that he could get or could have gotten. Sometimes God does change your circumstances, but sometimes he changes us within the circumstance. He's been changed within his circumstance. He can simply say, I love Christ, and I don't need him to heal the body. I'm happy in my state because of what Christ has done for my heart. That in itself is a miracle. Corinthians 12:9, and he said to him, my grace is sufficient for you, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, most gladly I will rather boast in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me. I think sometimes when we have it all together, it's so much harder to think that, God's for me, because it looks like you're doing this. You're in that high-powered job, paying you the nice energies, you're driving the nice car, you're doing it to school, your kids are in the best schools, you're going on holiday every half term, every holiday, or every school holiday. Who needs God? But I think in a sort of twisted way, being weak reminds us that it's through Christ that we can get. My grace is sufficient for you. His grace is sufficient for me in any season of my life, good and bad. But how do we get there? It's having that relationship, walking in the light with the Christ. Next song, please. I think a lot of us live in this zone. I was trying to find that dial-up. No, you may be lower ages. But those of us who use dial-up, that noise, and it's not connecting. And it's still making those noises and it's not connecting. Now we have Wi-Fi, and your phone just is nothing to come through. The messages are not coming through. I remember the other day, I thought something was wrong with my line until I got home and my phone automatically connected to the Wi-Fi. 65 messages come through. Emails are coming through. I'm thinking, I just didn't have data. But I think a lot of us walk around our daily lives like that. We're not connected to God. We've got no data. We've got no Christ bundles. And our calls are not going through. He's talking to us. We can't hear him. We think if we left alone, but we're just not connected. But the moment that phone reconnects to the network, like I said, 65 messages coming through. Sometimes spiritually, we're like that cell phone. We're trying to deal with life without the connection to Christ. But when we stop and we see him again, we reconnect. The situation is not fixed, no, but we have peace. Direction becomes clearer and strength returns. Sometimes direction isn't even clear, but you have peace and you have the strength to continue moving in the direction that you felt for in the first place. How many of us can honestly say that we are connected all the time, 24/7, and we don't have dial-up issues? Thank you, silent. Next slide, wisely. Ephesians 5:15-17 says, "See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time because the days are evil. Therefore do not be unwise, but understand what the will of the Lord is." Wisdom is not simply intelligence. We've got very clever people, but they lack wisdom. Wisdom is learning to pause and return to Christ and love Christ. Chaos. Psalm 46:10. And then we take this psalm for granted sometimes, especially in times of chaos. Be still and know that I am God. So we're supposed to do one thing first. Be still. I'm not sure if you're supposed to read that. But still, you're supposed to be still. And then know that I am God. I showed you the picture of the ship earlier. A captain has no control. Captain of a ship has no control of the wind. He has no control of the rain. He can't control the waves. He can't even control the darkness. But he just has to focus on that light. That is the only thing he can control, to focus on that light. So I feel like when we're that be still, it's like stop touching. You know, us as women, we are very good at touching things. I don't have enough things for the lunchbox. Okay, what can I do? There's flour, there's margarine, there's milk, I can make scones. There's this, I can. And I do this. It's like we're confident to say, as women, I know we do this. But you make a plan. Don't worry about mom's or stuff. Mom will make a plan. How she does not know, but she will find something to make the plan with. But God's calling us to be still and know that He is God in that moment. And then move in peace, not in chaos. Have you ever seen, those of you who are not moms, but even us who are moms, have you ever seen your moms when they are trying to sort out a chaotic something that somebody else was supposed to sort out? Do this. So go do this. You do this. Stop it, Mom. Are you laughing at me? When I'm trying to help you. I'm sure we've seen this, right? That's what we do. But God's wanting us to be still and know that I am God. Life is always a great moment in confusion. That's guaranteed. Moments where our thoughts are feeling tangled, moments where we are feeling overwhelmed, but the invitation of Christ remains the same. Breathe, find Jesus, walk in the light. And that's not all times. I think when we're having good times, we forget that, and should still be walking in the light with Christ. Middle of our busy lives, right at the beginning of the year, where Phoenix was sitting, so near the end of March, be still, find Jesus, and walk in light. So as we go this next week, I can guarantee there may be some tangled games. They make some stress come over. But how you come out of that, you make determined by what you do in that moment. Just remember those 3 words. Breathe, find Jesus.
Why you gonna have faith is knowing He said He would never leave you. Let it go and let Him work it. Let it work it. Let it work it. No, I won't stress about it. Faith is knowing that you never perish. He said He would never leave you. Let it go and let Him work it out.